This is our wonderful team. We're basically the team that are going to refute the claim that texting improves or increases literacy. We want to define quickly, though, what literacy actually is, just for the purpose of this debate. According to the Webster's Dictionary, being literate means to be educated, cultured, and you have the ability to read and write correctly. So we've kind of made it into 3 dot points if you think about literacy as the ability to speak, to communicate effectively, to write effectively, and to read effectively. So I'm sure we're all used to our autocorrects. I love this website. Go to it anytime you want to have a laugh. You can read it later, I guess. But there's 2 main reasons why we strongly believe that texting does not improve literacy. I'm going to discuss the first point. The main reason I and the team believe that texting does not actually improve literacy per se, we found some evidence to suggest that texting and literacy, how much you text and how well you read and write, is actually not directly related to each other at all. So our argument is basically, if there is no relationship, how could it possibly affect your literacy skills, let alone improve it? The second point we're going to basically talk about is we've also found some further research that if there was a relationship found in evidence, we found that it actually has some negative implications to your literacy skills. In the first study that we came across, there was a study done in 2008 for kids around the ages of 11 to 12, and they basically made the kids interpret a textism, like a text message with abbreviated text, and turn it into a structured English sentence. Now, they basically didn't find much of a difference between the 2 kids. There were kids that used text all the time, and kids that didn't really use it, and they didn't actually find too much of a difference between the 2. So this basically made them think that whether they texted a lot or a little didn't have a huge, conclusive, definite relationship between the 2. It wasn't clearly defined. So this kind of reiterates the point of, if it's not clearly defined, how could it possibly improve literacy? The second study that we came across in 2009 was very similar, but they did 80 college students, and I think there were 34 that were text-speak users, those who were literate in texting, and those who never really used text in that language. Again, they found that they didn't have much of a difference in their results in how well they read and wrote. So they concluded as well that their analyses showed that the use of text-speak was not related to their low literacy performance. So, ladies and gentlemen, I put to you, if evidence suggests that there is no relationship between the frequency of your texting and your literacy skills, how could it possibly affect your literacy skills, let alone improve it? So, we're going to get Glenn to talk, or Rob, sorry, about the second point that we're going to give to you.
Hi, my name is Rob. Before I get into this, just a show of hands, how many actually use correct capitalization and punctuation when they actually write a text message? Well, for the rest of you, in a 2011 research project by, I can't say his name, Brown, I think it is, they showed that a study with the teachers showing that they don't get those same products. People that actually text and use text a lot don't capitalize their stuff in their work, they keep on using round sentences, don't use periods, commas, hyphens, what have you, and they carry those habits that they keep on texting into the classroom and do all those things. And then also in this study, they also showed that there's actually a negative relationship when you come into reading accuracy. So you might be texting the LOLs, OMGs, and what have you, and while you're doing that, using these text systems, the text literacy, what have you, is actually hurting your reading accuracy. You're not able to read and comprehend what you're reading as well as you would if you don't text as much. And I will turn it over to Ron.
Hello, everyone. Now take a moment to imagine if growing up, your grandmother texts you LOL and you never heard her actually laugh. Or imagine your friend explaining the new game that's out or about his new girlfriend and you had to read a text instead of hear the inflection in his voice or really hear the emotion. You couldn't fathom that. Your grandmother LOLing you instead of laughing. So we come to prove that research has shown that an MIT psychologist, we're on the actual wrong slide, but I can keep going. MIT psychologist has proved that to be able to communicate face-to-face with someone actually helps understanding how to relate and how to actually articulate yourself in an environment with actual people. So to actually cut out the actual face-to-face communication and replace it with text messaging, you're really doing yourself a disservice because you're not getting to interpret nonverbal visual cues. You don't see that 2/3 of all communication is nonverbal. So if you cut out that face-to-face contact and replace it with texting, how can you understand reading comprehension? Or how can you really understand when you read, write, or speak? Because you really don't understand the language completely. Research has shown, PhD Bonnie Ellis has shown that younger people in her classes at University of Phoenix will text students across the room or directly next to them because they're afraid of face-to-face conversation. So it kind of cuts out that initial fundamental idea of communication that a lot of us were raised on, especially me personally, being someone in the African-American community that doesn't have a lot of literature of your history. It was a lot of storytelling. So if you cut out all of that face-to-face contact, a lot of people wouldn't even know who they really are. So it's a disservice to really, wait, I lost my place, it's fine, we're gonna get back going. Texting actually cheats the relationship and it cheats your further relationship, your future relationships, because you're not interpreting non-visual cues. So, can you go to the next slide?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Our critics are saying that the communication is destroying the way our kids read, think, and write. So, we as this community, a suggestion that I saw from the PhD was saying that maybe we need to fill the gap between older generation and younger generation of texters that are tech savvy and bring together that old way of communication with a new way so we don't lose our fundamental balance of face-to-face communication with the future of technology. So we cannot do ourselves a disservice. Texting does not improve literacy. It, in fact, what? No. It in fact hinders our growth in literacy because we're cutting out main fundamental ideas. And next I'll bring up Major to finish up.
I think one of the most important things we need to understand is that language comes in many different forms. Writing comes in many different forms. But at the end of the day, it's translating a person's feelings and their thoughts in their being. Texting does not improve your ability to share thoughts. It's simply a new medium. And it does not improve our way of our literacy because, for one, it's not standardized. So your envision or your vision of textism is according to your experience with words and the knowledge of words that you have. Someone not understanding the English language would not understand LOL initially. A lot of people don't think enough or take textism seriously enough to ask what the abbreviations mean. This means that it does not improve your literary skills. It does not improve your ability to translate your thoughts to the next person. It's simply another medium. Nothing more, nothing less.
So in conclusion, as far as we have been able to figure out, the research shows that at the very least it's not improving literacy among generations to come. And more likely it is in fact hurting it through, like we talked about, how it affects interpersonal skills. Sorry. It hurts it, And in terms of reading, writing, things like that, abbreviations and autocorrect can lead to maybe, a worse skill in regards to these things. That was our presentation. Thank you all very much for listening.